about to talk about one of my most favorite topics of the day, of the week, of the year, and it's clearly going to be a topic that is going to be following us this year. And it has to do with the possibility of Russia or any government intervening in elections, which is this debate, and of course we've been talking about Russiagate here on ADN40 News. So let's follow up. What is going on with this investigation? What do we know? And what could potentially happen here in Mexico? That's why, once again, because we're punishing him, Juan Pablo de Leo continues with us here on ADN40 News. Javier Murillo, who's been joining us, he's from CEO Metrics. And Ricardo Smith is still here with us from he's a member of Comexe. Okay.
Welcome, gentlemen. We finally have an all-male tape.
Oh,
I have been, weeks of all these women.
Nice.
This is, you guys are so, now you know what it feels to be like a minority. I have to just kind of underline here that, if you haven't noticed, this is a show where we have a lot of female analysts.
This is a matriarchy, and I want to denounce this matriarchy on national television.
You guys are just...
Gentlemen, welcome.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Where are we with this investigation in terms of Russiagate and whether the Russians did interfere in the U.S. elections, which I think has already been established. The question is whether there was participation of Donald Trump's campaign members, of Donald Trump, of family members.
Facebook has changed its policy. Twitter just said that it is changing its policy. Of course, at the end of the day, they were traitors to their country because they aided and abetted a foreign enemy. But what's going on now?
Traitors to your country. Wow.
Last week, Twitter sent an email.
Say goodbye to your Twitter account.
Last week, Twitter said that they're going to send an email to everyone who read any account which was managed by the Russians.
By Russian trolls, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, basically. But the thing is that right now, what is happening is that in Mexico, they are saying that López Obrador is using the Russians, or the Russians are using López Obrador.
No, but is there any evidence about that? I haven't seen, and
That's a good question.
I look into this quite closely. I mean, there's the assumption, and people are pointing out to one of the advisors of López Obrador, but
well,
I don't think there's any
of
evidence.
an advisor of him.
Yeah, but I mean,
And what is it? Let's just see the evidence.
Yes.
What have you got, Ricardo?
So the evidence basically is an article written by a journalist from the United States, the Washington Post, and what she basically says is that this man he works for Russia Today, and
Russia Today, which is a Russian news outlet.
Well, it's I think it's more than a
It's
news
a propaganda
outlet.
or voice piece.
Yes, that's right. And he works for them. He has like this weekly video column.
Right.
And the problem is that her wife, she's expected to become the minister of the public function, or
But that's not evidence. I mean, that seriously.
What
if
was
that's
the
not
way?
evidence, no.
What was the way the Russians intervened in the American elections? There's two ways that the Russians intervened in the American election. First one, it was the hacking of the Democratic National Committee database, and they tried to hack into the Republican National Committee database as well. That's one thing.
But they think they actually did, but it was never published.
But it was never published.
And that you have
so
to.
that's one thing, the hacking and trying to get into the database of the electorate in many senses. And the other way is with the fake news and with the conversation that goes on in Facebook, in Twitter, and on other social media that you cannot detect right away because you don't know what media you're reading it from. You can't identify really where the message and the framing is coming from. So there's two ways to influence in that. So in that sense, and regarding your question, Ana Maria, like what are are there any
Evidence.
Is there any evidence regarding the intervention? I don't think like we have the knowledge and the technology to right now.
But Javier, you and I talked about this.
Yes.
There has been some evidence of them trying to interfere, but we're not too clear what was the intentions.
The thing is, if they don't interfere, why Facebook and Twitter are reacting?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
That's the thing. Facebook also made an announcement last week that they're going to change their algorithm
Right.
For us to pay ads inside the network.
Right.
Okay, so that is very important because not only the politics are going to change the way that they put information into that network, but also the brands. So it's going to be a lot of things from now on because of that intervention. But the thing is, if there's nothing, what they are changing?
Well, but let's stop for a second. I mean, the problem, and the reason why we're talking about this is that we have to see what happened in the United States, lesson learned, and try to prevent something like this happening in Mexico.
And ideally, somebody should go to jail, by the way.
Well,
I think that, no, I mean, they made money from aiding and abetting a foreign enemy. And that is treason.
Interfering
Yes,
with the
that is
government.
treason, yeah.
That's treason.
But the question is whether that strategy that they used in the United States would work in Mexico. I mean, using these ads and using this fake news, because there is a lot of ads and a lot of fake news going around right now about the candidates.
A lot.
The know-how
in Mexico.
is here in Mexico, not by the Russians. So the question is, what could they do in Mexico that would be considered interference that could favor one candidate over the other? And I don't think it is with these ads.
Public opinion is different in Mexico.
Right.
Okay. The thing is that voters, they don't react on social media as they do in the U.S.
Okay.
In Mexico, if you want to move someone to vote, you just give them a Pepsi or a Coke
Right.
or 500 pesos.
Right.
You don't. It's not based on a post in Facebook. But the thing is that if you use fake news, maybe we can change not our reaction, not our vote. Okay, that is the thing. That they're doing this to give fake information, so the public opinion moves forward some of the candidates or against against another one. Okay.
See,
So it's manipulation, but it's on another level.
It's on another level.
I also think that fake news could have a very interesting effect here in Mexico. So it is true that many people and many political parties rely on voting mobilization, but also we have a certain percentage of the Mexican electorate, which is mostly urban and mostly educated, who will be influenced by what they read on the news. And this could be dangerous because misinformation or just spreading news all over the place, that could actually incentivize people not to go voting.
Which is what happened in the United States.
Yes, and that would benefit a certain actor.
You know, I interviewed the Russian ambassador in Mexico about a month ago, and he made a very interesting point. He said, "Why would we interfere?" He said, "Of course they weren't going to do it."
You guys are good enough
But he said,
messing up yourselves.
No, but he had a point. He says, "Why would we interfere in the Mexican elections?" And unless we answer that question, we can't
Why wouldn't
figure out
they? I mean,
would
they've intervened in every single election, and there's proof of this from intelligence of every country, from Catalonia in
Finland,
Brexit. I mean,
Germany, France.
why wouldn't they?
Well, then we have to figure out why they would, because then you figure out what you have to do as a nation and the electoral authorities.
Absolutely.
If they're doing it because they want to favor one president to be able to have an extortion, because the debate in the United States is whether the Russians have information on Donald Trump in order to be able to extort him, right? To be able to control him. So that's the debate. So the question here is whether are they going to do that so they can control the Mexican president? Are they going to do it because they want to create chaos, destabilize Mexico because Mexico is on the border with the United States?
Exactly.
Do they want to do this because they want to have support someone that they believe would be more favorable to the Russia or the Russian
might
ideas?
Owe them the election?
Or
That's an
might owe
even
them-
better thing. I mean, if they owe them the election...
We kind of have to figure that out, because what the Russians can do, or people connected to the Russian government, could be something as simple, if it's to create chaos, is to hack the computers of the electoral authorities the night of the elections.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
That's the thesis.
chaos?
Is that possible?
Yeah, because you cannot stop them. You can make a DOS attack, a DOS attack.
Denial of service.
Yes, denial of service. So you can take it down. And imagine what would happen if that server comes down.
That night.
Okay, that
exactly.
night.
So that,
They tried
of
to do
course,
something like that in France with Macron and
Right.
the media. I mean, it was emails, but the media just stopped it right there, like 2 days before the election.
And then there is the question as to whether if these activities happen, is it sponsored by a specific government? Because there's other governments that have that capability, by the way. Or
Korean
is this
government,
just Russian
North Korea,
or Syrian or North Korean hackers doing this because they think this is a good thing to do? I mean,
I think in Mexico, what we have not been able to do is that we have not focused this debate on what in the question that you are actually asking.
Right.
We have been focusing the debate rather on a candidate.
Right. And I think that's wrong.
All the political actors, and I think most of the institutions in Mexico in charge of organizing elections, they should actually come to the table and start thinking how we can prevent an intervention from another government, because it is highly likely, because it has happened around the world in every election.
Also educate, and you and I also, Javier, we talked about this.
Yes.
You have to educate the voters that what you see on Twitter or what you see, and just at least ask the
Ideally,
question.
they should be shutting down their Facebook accounts, but of course, we understand.
That's a little bit too much.
That's a little bit too much. But I think there is, I mean, these accusations directly against Andrés Manuel López Obrador has now become a joke. Andrés Manuel called himself this week, what did he say?
Andrés Manuelovich.
Andrés Manuelovich, that's right,
And
because
you know,
he was
the
joking.
Mexican government has had to come out and say, no, the Russians are not going to interfere they're not going to interfere in the election. So, I mean, it's clearly a big issue, but I think we're kind of, at least the evidence that there is right now, there's nothing, at least what I can see, that indicates. I think it's kind of wrong to focus it on a candidate. I think we need to focus on the potential of the chaos that would be created if they either intervene in the electoral authorities' capabilities that evening, or, which probably had already happened, if they basically hacked. Can you imagine if they hacked the emails of these candidates, or they hacked the emails of the presidency and kind of released that information, the chaos it would created? That was, I believe, what defined Hillary Clinton's, or ended Hillary Clinton's campaign, because it divided the party, it divided, it divided the voters, literally.
I was talking to one of the people that was in charge of the Trump campaign from an electronic standpoint, and they bought the YouTube homepage. And so if you were identified as a potential Hillary voter, you received this homepage with the inconvenient truths of Hillary.
Right.
And so you could choose, you could pick and choose. Do you want to talk about how she's a lackey to Goldman Sachs? Do you want to talk about how she covered up Bill Clinton's misogyny and all of that? And then if you were a potential Trump voter, you were immediately what you saw was how to vote that day, what was your nearest voting station.
The campaigns can do that. I mean, start there. The campaigns are already doing that. I mean, I don't know you guys, but I'm just starting to watch all these things pop up on my websites and on my Facebook. I'm like, how did that get in there? So, I mean, clearly the campaigns are already focusing on a strategy to try to do something like that.
Because everyone is looking at you. Right now, if you go to Google or you go to Twitter and you type a keyword, you're going to receive information based on that.
Based on you.
Based on what?
Your preferences.
On the keyword,
No, on your preferences. Because they know that if you're a soccer mom, they're going to say, did you know that Andrés Manuel López Obrador is against soccer? Because they know you're a soccer mom. And that's how targeted it is. It's, I mean, it really is tragic and pretty horrible. Apparently, we've got an audio that we can listen to.
That we need to look at.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
So the interesting thing about North Korea and Twitter is that literally Donald Trump has been establishing the U.S. policy towards North Korea through Twitter, which is mind-boggling, considering how dangerous that is, right?
Yes, of
Last
course.
words, gentlemen. Ricardo.
this is regretful, and I think the United States really has communication channels with North Korea. They're informal, but they are already there. So the fact that Donald Trump is using Twitter to address the North Korean leader, really, the only thing it does, it just puts the whole relationship, not only with North Korea, but with many Asian allies of the United States in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're running out.
Yeah, we are running out of time. Javier, what's the
I
last
think
words?
they have to shut down
Donald
Trump's Twitter account.
Legally, they could. I mean, when
Yes.
you're based on
Yeah,
based on
if they
Twitter's
wanted to, they
rule-
could.
yeah, they
Absolutely.
right.
And they should.
John Paul, last words.
John Paul,
Thank you
Mr.
for
John
having me,
Paul.
guys. I just love your show. I watch it every morning on the weekends. I think we're seeing a very interesting presidency through Twitter. I think it's going to go down in history with everything we're seeing publishing. And I mean, we have a president that's threatening nuclear war through Twitter. So I mean,
Juan Pablo,
that's
remind
the
our
dimension.
audience when they can watch you here on ADN40.
Every weekday, 3 to 4 at Es Tendencia, and 7 to 7:30 in Inbox.
He's one of
Gentlemen.
the most hardworking
That's right.
Anchors here on ADN40.
One of my favorites,
Thank you for
definitely.
inviting me.
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Thank you.
And we're going to go to another commercial break, and we'll be
right back.
right back. Don't go away.